Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 292 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. My guest this week, Matthew Nelson, half of the band Nelson with his twin brother Gunnar. The duo just released their long-awaited autobiography, What Happened to Your Hair, telling stories about their unusual upbringing, being the third generation of a massive entertainment family, the grandsons of Ozzy and Harriet, and the sons of pop star Ricky Nelson. Their book is available everywhere, and the link to get it is in the show notes of this episode. Matthew and Gunnar are also going out on a solo acoustic tour, which is going to stop at City Winery Boston on April 26th. Those tickets are on sale right now. You'll find the link to that also in the show notes. I was so happy that Matthew Nelson agreed to come on the show, so allow me to introduce you to Matthew Nelson. Well, hello, Mr. Nelson. Thank you for coming on the show.
It is good to be on the show.
Congratulations.
We have a purple thing going. Look at this. It's great. It's like I like it.
I know. I love being able to do interviews like this because I get to see you guys like a nature documentary in your natural environment, which is a badass studio, it looks like.
It is. 10 minutes ago, my natural environment was in my shower, and I think we'd get higher ratings for that, maybe. I don't know, or people would turn it off. But
the Mistress Carrie show has never, in all of the years I've been on the radio and podcasting, never done an interview with a rock star in a shower. So it would have been a first.
Oh, now we know what we got to do. The only thing is, since it's a brother act, that's a little bit freaky.
Yeah,
so I don't think I'm going to be doing it. Yeah, I don't want to do that. But maybe a solo act. You know, when I do my solo album, you know, half Nelson, I'll come to you from the shower, live in the shower.
I have identical twin aunts.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm very familiar with like the ways of the twin. Like they dress the same without trying. They just show up at gatherings. It's weird. And you and your brother share a music studio.
Well, we do. Here's the thing. The practical reality of it is I actually had a Hollywood divorce. So my house just immediately became a whole lot smaller. And Gunnar's got a bigger house and room for the studio. But for a long time, I was living in Los Angeles. He was in Franklin, Tennessee, where I am right now. And I moved out to Franklin about 15 years ago, before it was cool to move to Tennessee. And it's great. You can kind of stretch out a little bit. We've got a beautiful room up here. It looks a lot like the vintage room at Guitar Center, if you've ever been there. We kind of use that. We found some wood pallets, and you have to use a specific one that are treated so you don't get critters, bugs in the walls or whatever. But kind of looks rustic and cool. It's almost like we have a bar behind you. I could show you, but it's a venue that we have that we rehearse in. Gunnar records downstairs. He's the master of studio wizardry. I've always been the guy where I love to write the songs. I love to do my parts. And then I want to get the hell out of there and get on stage, and Gunnar is really more the studio guy. So it works out for us.
Is that a McCartney bass behind you? That's what it looks like.
There are, let me see. I have 3 of them. There are 2 of them up there, if you can see that. But that's, I've got some really fun things. I think the most fun thing, though, is the bass that I just got back from my friends at Steel Panther because they had it out for a while. But the bass that I had on the cover of the After the Rain album, the Jackson turquoise bass, it's kind of like an iconic thing. I know this is not good for airtime, but talk amongst yourselves. 1 second.
Oh, he's going to get it. Oh, this is good. Yes.
Visual aids. Yes. You ready?
Yes, hit me with it.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, pointy headstocks and everything. Grover himself and I put this together way back in, I think, 87, I think. And so this was on the cover of the After the Rain album. And yeah.
Are you one of those musicians that just can't part with instruments? It's not quite a hoarding situation, but I think the DeLeo brothers from Stone Temple Pilots said that once an instrument gives you a song, it's hard to part with it.
It's really a good point. We know the DeLeo brothers from way back when they worked at a music store together called Lab Sound. I met them when I was hanging out with Dweezil Zappa. It was the place in the valley, in the San Fernando Valley where we used to live, where all the high-end gear was, like the expensive stuff we couldn't afford. We went down there anyways. They carried Mesa Boogie amplifiers, which were hot at the time. And the DeLeo brothers were there, and they were always the coolest guys to us. And I was so thrilled when they just blew up, you know? But to answer your question, Gunnar and I we're pretty guitar-ed. I mean, we buy, sell, trade, all that kind of stuff. People call us sometimes to ask us about certain things. I will never get rid of this because this is extremely sentimental to me. And frankly, from both the Love and Affection, it was the After the Rain video. I played this one. And so, but it's on the cover, the front and the back cover of the After the Rain album. And everybody kind of knew me when I looked like a hot Swedish chick with this bass. So, but I have I could give you a tour. I'm going to give you a tour. Why not?
I love seeing the creative spaces where the music comes from that we all love. Like when I got to build my own studio and work in my own place, it's like you get to craft a workspace that's just the way you like it.
The way it should be.
Yeah.
The way it should be. Here, I have that wonderful ring light. I'm going to do this so we can see a little bit. Okay, so here we go. This, if you can see this.
Yeah, the Black Les Paul.
Black Les Paul was my dad's guitar, and he held that on the cover of his Garden Party album. So that's pretty sentimental. This right here is a real 1957 Fender Precision bass. Pretty much as a bass player, all you really need for your life. There's my fretless. There's my Fender Custom Shop 63 I take on the road. This one has a circuit built in it that actually has a distortion circuit. I use that with Nelson. It's a 5-string. I hate 5-string, but I play it sometimes because we're getting older and the keys are a little lower. I'm not talking we're in the key of Z, but and this is a 78 Music Man. So this is kind of the replica of what this is. That one's really expensive. That one, a couple of grand. And there are just a couple of violin basses and something I found in my music locker. And
an old Nelson tapestry.
Oh,
I love it.
Of course. Oh, I actually found fanny packs and backpacks as well. So
they're not called fanny packs anymore. They're cross-body bags, and the kids are wearing them. They're back.
Oh, come on. For real?
I swear they wear them across the chest now. They're called crossbody bags, but they're literally fanny packs, just worn different.
Well, didn't they call them man bags for a while? Anyway, you cut it. It's not cool. But let's face it. Right now I've got an 11-year-old little boy. His name is Ozzy. He's beautiful and funny as hell. But we have a standing rule in my home. You cannot come back to the house with a broccoli haircut. You know, that's the thing the kids are doing now. They're getting freaking perms.
They look like alpacas. That's what I call them. They look like alpacas.
They look like the broccoli on VeggieTales. And then... And no Crocs allowed in my home.
Oh, see.
No Crocs.
I wear them in my garden.
You know what? They're suitable for garden wear.
Okay.
But it's the same thing as like kids are going out now in public. They're out in the wild in freaking pajamas and Crocs.
Yeah.
It's like, what is wrong with you guys? Seriously.
I gotta say, though, as a child of the 80s like you are, and I was going to ask you this question anyway, they look at our 80s photos. Mm-hmm. And to give them credit, we are no one to criticize anyone's fashion.
Well, you know what?
Yes, I was there with you with the big hair, and the spandex pants, and the jelly bracelets, and all of it.
Oh, well, we used to call the chicks with the Aquanet white bottle. That was mall hair.
Yes,
and we experimented with that really before anybody knew who we were for like 1 year when Adam Curry was a thing. If you go way back to MTV,
he's the father of podcasting, by the way.
Yes, he is. He absolutely is the father of podcasting. Thank you. Rogan owes you a fruit basket. And So I agree with that. But the one difference is everything that we did was really deliberate. Okay. So there was kind of a style. It was day glow. It was, bangles, all that stuff. It was pretty calculated. What I'm seeing now is like, it reminds me of Zoolander and Derelict. It's just, there's nothing happening. It's like, you're just, what it looks like? You're effing lazy. Have some pride.
It's all about comfort. I have a 16-year-old stepson. And so for him, it's all about being comfortable to the point where like clothing textures, he's like, no, I want to wear what's comfortable for me. And he's a Crocs kid. And it just, I'm like, oh man, one of these days you're going to look back because he makes fun of my 80s pictures. And I'm like,
there's
one
a
of
fine
these
line
days.
I think there's a fine line between comfort and the spectrum. Okay, sorry. At a certain point, look, if it were up to me, I would live in beachwear. Like go down to the surf shop, wear some big I'd be Sammy Hagar. I'd look comfortable all the time. I would go barefoot because I was a kid of the beach. I love that. I used to surf. Look at my skin. I would do that. However, I don't really think it's, I also have another side of me, like, well, you saw what we used to do. We had our clothes made for us, like Prince did back in the day, because we just, for a lot of reasons, which we talk about in our book. Well, no, honestly, and it's weird, because we couldn't. Because nobody, when our first album came out, would believe that we were just like them or less. Nobody would understand that we knew what it was like to struggle or had money because we had that name. So the way we looked at it, and frankly, we did meet Prince. And his whole thing was, I don't want anything off the rack because I'm unique. I'm going to have it made for me. And I got what he was going for, because back then with us, it was blues-oriented hard rock, Guns N' Roses, Crew, that kind of stuff. Or it was absolute glam stuff like Poison. And Gunnar and I didn't fit in any of that stuff. We kind of made our own thing. I mean, even our music, it's not blues oriented. It's more like heavy folk than anything. It's like we had more of like country DNA from the Laurel Canyon sound in our stuff. And we didn't grow up on the Sunset Strip playing gigs. We played gigs 10 years earlier when it was all about punk and new wave. So we had a punky new wave band, and we were 12, 13, 14 years old playing at clubs like Madame Wong's West. It was never like Gazzari's or the hair band stuff that we kind of got lumped into. We had a little bit of that, Loved Bon Jovi. It was great. Saw him 86 at the Spectrum. That moved our molecules. But like John Bon Jovi, we were songwriters first. We wrote our songs. We knew that nobody was going to give them to us, because we learned that the hard way after playing years in clubs. You have to have a hit song or more. And that's the way we went. So when we presented it, it was the book has a whole chapter on us confronting or being confronted by David Bowie's stylist in England. Saw us at a party and walked up to us and said something along the lines of, "What are you going for? Is this American rock blend? You can't do this. You boys could be really handsome, really lovely looking boys, but this is not going to work. You've got to put some effort into it, because in England, in the UK, in Europe, the way you look is as important as your music. So get your shit together." So that's basically what it was. And that's what happened. So Gunnar and I went home and went, okay, what are we going to do? And we kids of Hollywood, we went to a place called Western Costume. There's a place that services all the films. Like if you make a Western, go to Western Costume. But if you make a period piece from the 1800s, the 1700s, they have like volumes of books going through fashion through the years. And we kind of like, put little Post-its on stuff that we dug. It wound up being like an amalgam of fairly dressy, a little bit pompy military stuff, but with color, where everybody was black and white and stuff. We made a statement with color. Our videos had us singing backwards and stuff going up, like it was like almost like a fever dream, a little bit like, Jellyfish came out at the same time, which I love Jellyfish, but frankly, they were smarter than we were, and it just went right over everybody's head. They had an amazing debut, but it was that kind of like counter statement, almost like a fever dream. I kind of like that. We wanted to, get everybody's attention, and we did wind up looking like some interestingly dressed, very colorful Swedish chicks. So it worked for us. It was a good look, And I will say this is what I'm going to say. By proof, beyond the fact we sold millions of records to people who had no idea who Ricky Nelson or Ozzy and Harriet were, which was great. The proof is that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I just got our clothes back. We were in a display They put us in the middle of a display with between Britney Spears and the Spice Girls and facing Prince. So I was like, okay, I can live in that environment. By the way, who wouldn't want to be right in the middle of the Spice Girls and Britney Spears? I'm good with that. So, and it all worked out.
The book you keep referring to just came out yesterday, and I love the fact that you just took the piss right out of it and named it What Happened to Your Hair. Like right off the bat, just get it out in the open.
Right there. Well, what really does it too is the back cover. And I wish I had a book with me right now, physical book, but everybody in my life is like, can I have a book, please? They gave us 15 of them. They're gone. Right now, we're number 2 on Amazon. Actually, this was as of a couple of days ago in the pre-release. We're number 2 in the music bios section on Amazon globally, which is awesome. The book's blowing up, and everybody's really kind of understanding that our book it's very raw. I mean, we'll make you. One reporter said, "I read your book. You made me laugh and cry in the same sentence," and that takes talent to do that as a writer. Gunnar and I, we can tell a story, and the way we did it was, we wrote 52 chapters. There's no ghostwriters. This is us. We did it.
I was going to ask if people helped you.
No. If you want to say help, I'm going to say that we had a friend of ours that was a legitimate author that we went to from time to time saying, hey, how do you do? What are the mechanics of this? And he said, well, here are the mechanics. This is what I would suggest. Go. Because we had a guy that came in as a ghostwriter on the top of this. And frankly, we read a couple of pages. And Gunnar and I looked at each other and went, I can't do this, man. If we have this is our option, or this is our time right now to tell our story from our mouths, of our experience. Why would we do that through somebody else? Because it just didn't even sound like us. The humor wasn't there. And as you could tell from the cover, it's me cutting Gunnar's hair maniacally because, man, we've sold #1 records. We're the only family in history with 3 generations of #1 hit makers in it.
I read that and I went, oh my God, yeah.
It's a family tradition, but still in all, what happened to your hair seems to be the #1 question. So we just put it on the cover. And speaking of that England trip, where we learned about fashion, if you turn over the back cover, most people, when you have a book on a stand, they put superlatives like, oh, these guys are fantastic, da, 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 da. And we could have done that. We had some friends of ours. I would have put Jeff Skunk Baxter from the Doobie Brothers on it, or, whatever, all that kind of stuff. But we decided to put on the best of the worst, actual quotes about us on the back cover. This is how it is. It starts with our mother. It says, I was married to their father. I'm not impressed, Mom. That's how it starts. Okay. And it just goes down. I just heard from my buddies in Steel Panther. And
who I love, by the way, and a lot of people don't understand that behind all of that humor are absolute true musicians.
Brilliant
musicians.
And I'm not tapping myself on the shoulder, but the guy singing the background vocals on the first 2 Steel Panther records.
That's you?
That's me. Yeah. That's me. The high voice on Fat Girls is Matt Nelson. Okay.
Out of all of the things that the Nelson family has ever achieved in your generations of lineage, that's right up there at the top.
I have hit the peak, man. I remember I was in the studio with Jay Rustin, he was producing Anthrax and the Panthers, and he mixed one of our albums. And the Don is he's really blown up as a producer. And the first session I had with Steel Panther, because we have a great thing, me and Jay, I'm reading these lyrics because, I'd seen them when they were Metal School and Metal Shop, and they were doing
They
covers.
were like
the
big thing to do when you went to Hollywood. You had to go that night.
Absolutely.
And you never know who was going to show up.
Correct. And they're hysterical. They're really funny comedians too, but they happen to be brilliant musicians.
Yeah.
And so when they said that they're going to do their own music, I was like, okay, cool. And I was honored. I like to work. So I went in and I've arranged vocals on some different albums and the background stuff. And I remember reading those lyrics going, there's no way that you want me to sing this? Because, Asian hooker is really pleasant, and there's a lot of stuff in here, the girl from Oklahoma, that's me. And it's like, who would have laughed their asses off is my father. If he saw that stuff, he would have he had such a great sense of humor about all of it, I don't know, the BS that's associated with all of it, that he would have loved something like that, And I tell you, it was fun to be on a record like that. I was on I was actually asked to be Avril Lavigne's music director for about 10 minutes until I found out what she paid. So, this word went out all through Hollywood. We're going to put a superstar band. This is before the song "Girlfriend" or "I Hate You, I Want to Be Your Girlfriend," which she stole from the Rubinoos because I know that song. It's a power pop song from the 70s and early 80s, like my zone, like the Plimsouls and the Rubinoos and all that kind of stuff. I know all that stuff. And I heard it and went, ooh, this sounds really familiar. But before that, I went on a cattle call for her band just because I was bored. Gunnar was in Nashville. I had a friend of mine in a band called Lifehouse, Ben Carey. And he said, why don't we just go down and just kind of jump into this thing? We know the guy who's putting together, they've had auditions in New York and Texas. Now they're doing LA. And I just showed up and she had no idea who I was, like not at all.
Which
and that's
has got to be refreshing sometimes for you to be
amazing.
Anonymous because you never were allowed to be.
Well, that's true. I mean, the thing is, when Gunnar and I show up together, it's hard to miss us. When I go by myself, somebody goes, hey, look at that loser trying to be a Nelson twin. It's a very, And so anyways, I went through 2 rounds of auditions and she was married to Derek Whibley at the time. And he came up to me and he said, hey, it's nice that you're here. And then Avril walked up and said, hey, my husband said you were in a band. Did you sing or play or what? I said, a little both, just a little bit. And then I got the call to, hey, if you want to be she wants you to be the music director. And I wound up not doing that because honestly, they had put out this thing where they're paying, a living wage. And I don't live with my mom anymore. I've got a family and stuff. And I couldn't
pay the bills.
Yeah. So that was a good one. But I actually have a side project called Red 37. And it's a 3-piece heavy rock power trio that I put together with Brian Burwell from a band called Neve. He played in Candlebox too, and JJ Ferris, who was in the Tories. And we went in and did our entire album in 4 days with Jim Wirt producing, who did Live and Presidents of the United States of America and some other. He found Hoobastank was his big get, and it's heavier than Gunnar even says. I live where he doesn't musically that way, and it was great because it was my own little band, and I didn't really push the Matt Nelson thing. And we wound up on KLOS back when Mark and Brian was there doing the morning show. And we played live in the studio because they heard something that JJ gave him. Didn't mention anybody who was in the band in the past, just that it's a cool thing. And the music stood for itself. I'll even send it to you because we're going to release it this year finally.
Oh, cool.
And and we did our thing and they were really pumped about it. And they took some calls. And unfortunately, somebody said, hey, Matt, say hi to Gunnar for me. And I think it was Brian went, wait, hang on a second. What did she just say? I said, she said, hi, say hi to Gunnar. He said, are you one of those Nelsons? I'm like, yeah, I am one of those now. They freaked out. They couldn't believe it, which is kind of weird because I'm a musician. I play and I do other kinds of things. Gunnar's the same way. Gunnar was the lead guitar player with Cat Stevens for a year. Nobody knows that. So as musicians, it's cool. When Gunnar and I are together, it's the blessing and the curse that our dad had, which is you have such a strong image that you have to write a book to let people know who you really are, which is what we did.
Well, when I talked to Wolfgang Van Halen, I said that I viewed his birth into that family lineage as kind of like being born into a royal family. We're literally from birth, without any choice of your own, that identity is thrust on you, whether you want it or not. And for a lot of people from the outside, they're going to view it as all blessing and no curse because you grow up in this famous family with money and whatever. But the curse part of it is you just wanting to be your own person. Making a first impression is not a big deal for anyone else in the world. But when you come from a famous family, that impression gets made for you. Is that fair?
Well, it depends because I always said this, the kids that I grew up couldn't give a crap who my dad was. They didn't know who he was. Same thing with my grandparents or whatever. They just didn't know. We were just normal kids. It was the press that got a hold of it when we released our thing. And also even the people at Geffen, where we finally found a home with John Kolodner as our A&R guy, kind of between the cracks of Aerosmith and Peter Gabriel. We fought really hard for a long time to get a break. We were playing since we were 6, playing the clubs, as I said, 12, 13, 14 years old, and a completely different type of music, reinventing ourselves. And more importantly, the fact was there's the the opposite side of it. I've never met Wolfie, although I think he's an amazingly talented person. And I love, like us, like Dweezil, we loved our fathers and we respect them. And we really respect the music. But it would be tough for him because here's the thing, Wolfie can play just like his dad. Maybe not exactly like his dad, but pretty close. He's really talented. And then he can grab the bass. Then he can play the drums. Then he can play the keyboards. He's a savant.
Sing. Yeah.
And he can sing. He's the full package. You know, if you've ever seen a Dweezil Zappa, like a Zappa does Zappa thing or whatever, which to be honest with you, I met Frank, you know, we were up at Dweezil's house and that place was a circus up there on Mulholland and stuff. Everybody would show up. I mean, I think we write about it in the book. And in 1 week, you know, we were flirting with Beverly D'Angelo, and then Alyssa Milano came over, and River Phoenix, and then Donovan Leitch. I mean, like everybody was in this house. It was just bizarre. But everybody kind of gravitated towards the music room because Dweezil was a wunderkind, and he taught himself how to, well, I have to say, he taught himself how to play, but he did have a very good teacher, one Edward Van Halen, who found out that he was a big fan of his when he was a teenager and just showed up at Frank's house and wound up going to his high school, junior high talent show and going home and getting him a guitar and saying, no, this is really how you play Eruption, and showing him that. So that's a very unfair advantage. It's really cool. But the thing about it is both of those guys and a lot of people that are from that understand what it's like, because just like us, when Edward passed away, and I got a chance to talk to Eddie a little bit. I used to live in Studio City, California, found him in front of me at an Indian Motorcycles dealership. And we talked about, he had cancer on his tongue and my sister had cancer. So he actually started the conversation. And he was really nice to me and a lovely guy. But it's a very public thing when you lose a father that's like that. And in Gunnar, in my case, we talk about it in the book. We were supposed to be on our dad's plane when it went down. And he made a phone call at the last minute that saved our lives. And very uncharacteristically, what people don't know is that we had, it wasn't Ozzie and Harriet for us. I mean, our mother drank a lot and we were forced to live with her. And so when you're in a house with that type of a dynamic, you're kind of surviving and you're trying to navigate that type of stuff. We also reminded our mom of our dad, and they had gone through this horrible Hollywood divorce. So she made it incredibly difficult for us to even play music. Like, moving our crap up to our dad's house 20 miles away when we didn't have cars. So we had to get jobs after school and pay somebody that could drive us up to rehearsal. I mean, we really fought for this. And, on our 18th birthday, we were faced with either you give up music or you get out. So we left. And fortunately for us, we had been turned down a couple of times by our dad because we wanted to live with him, but our mom would send the cops up, and it was just a mess. I mean, I'm talking this before the internet. It was craziness. But we graduated in 85, and for 4 months we were inseparable with our father, which was weird because he toured 300 days a year normally. And we had a Christmas party. Gunnar and I sold out the Viper Room. It was called the Central back then, and our dad surprised us by going, which he didn't do, not because he didn't want to be there, but because he just had this charisma. People would notice him. It was bizarre. And we talked about it after the show, and the sun was coming up over the San Fernando Valley. He used to live in the old Errol Flynn estate. He was a film actor in the 40s. Frickin' place was haunted as hell. I mean, I'm telling you, it was just, absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you read the book, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, about Errol Flynn, he was basically every heartthrob in the movies all in one for about 5 years. But he had a book called My Wicked, Wicked Ways, and he was out there. And he loved the girls, but he got a little dark. And every once in a while, we'd sit in the living room and perfume would waft past us. I mean, there's nobody there. And like women's like rose scented perfume would just float past your nose. It was like, you feel a chill. There was some stuff in there. But thankfully that day, it wasn't there. And the sun was coming up over the San Fernando Valley after our gig. And our dad took that moment to tell us he loved us and said, we love you too, Pop. We did that all the time. Nelsons are like that. It's fine. But he said, no, after tonight, I got to tell you, I've been letting you guys figure it out for yourself. And, you sold that place out. I said, Pop, it held 30 people. He said, it doesn't matter. Take the win. I admire you guys. I consider you, it's different now. You're my peers. Welcome to the club. And that's when the tears started. The Christmas tree was down the hallway. And we made this plan to celebrate New Year's together, going on the road with him for a few shows and just hanging with the band. He had a big, beautiful private plane called a DC-3 he bought from Jerry Lee Lewis. And we were all packed up and ready to go. He left a little early to do a couple of gigs in Florida. And we were supposed to meet up in Alabama and then fly to Texas. And our pop called us from Florida. And it was the day before we were supposed to leave. We're supposed to leave in the morning. And he said, boys, I don't want you coming. If you come, I want you to meet me in Texas, but I don't want you on the plane. And that wasn't like our dad. And I was kind of pissed, to be honest with you. I said, Pop, what are you talking about? The whole thing is New Year's. We're going to be there together. And so he said, yeah, you can meet me there, but I'm just telling you, I've made up my mind. I don't want you on the plane. So we said, okay. And then we went on with our lives and told him we would meet him when he got home. And the next day, it was New Year's Eve, and I was driving to my friend's house to go meet up with Gunnar. And one of my dad's songs came on KLOS, the rock station in LA. And I thought, whoa, that's different. Maybe they're doing a flashback show or something. Somebody's influenced by him, because our pop hadn't had a hit in a long time, but definitely not in KLOS. It leaned a little bit heavier. And I think they played Hello, Mary Lou. And then without saying anything, another song came on. Traveling Man came on. And I was like blown away going, wow, this is really cool. I don't know what's going on. It never hit me. I'm blonde. But that it was when they played the third song, which was Garden Party. And I did go to private school, and I started singing 3, Try, Tribute. And then
wait, you found out about the plane crash because you were listening to the radio?
When the song ended, the last notes of Garden Party, my dad says, it's all right now. So you can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself. And the last note just droned out, and it held for about 10 seconds. Again, weird on the radio. And Jim Ladd, the jock, came on, and it sounded like he'd been crying. And he said, this has been a tribute to Rick Nelson, who was killed earlier today in Texas, along with his band. I write about it in the book right now. I'm getting choked up, but I have to call it like a football game, because that's how I found out my dad was dead. Wow. Gunnar found out on the radio or on the TV. And I write about this whole episode in the book. It's probably the most real that you can possibly be. I was doing the ebook yesterday, because we're trying to get that done. We're reading it ourselves, which I think is good. But I got to this one chapter, which Gunnar wrote his own take on it, on this one moment in our lives. He went to his corner, I went to my corner. We didn't compare notes. And I just came from the heart, and I wrote the thing. And I'm going through this story and trying to keep from crying. And I get to this part, and I've got a very well-meaning engineer on the other end recording me. And he's giving me directions like I'm doing a scene in a movie. Like, can you be a little more, like forceful and upbeat? I'm like, hey, hang on a second. I know you mean well, but shut the F up. Okay. I'm going to tell a story here. The reason why I'm doing this is because this is my story that maybe somebody wants to hear from me. Please, I know you mean well, but if I'm not talking loud enough, it's because I'm going somewhere inside. Boost me up on your end. Okay. I'm not going to play the mic. This isn't a performance for me. This is real. And by the time I got done, he knew what I meant, because he didn't know where I was going. He hasn't read the book. And there was a real silence in that studio for a while. And he said, I got to take a break. I said, yeah, I could use one too. And we have a lot of those moments in this book. I mean, there's a lot of really funny stuff that we talk about. But when you bring up people like Wolfie, or I bring up Dweezil, we all had really impressive dads. And we all, from what I can tell, really loved our dads and respected them and are doing our own thing. And I have to say that Dweezil is a genius musician. He really is a genius musician. Like, he thinks the way I don't. He's like a human computer.
He sees the world different. There are just people that just see the world different.
He built a Dolby Atmos room in his home, studio. And the last time he came through town, but before that I was in LA, and I went to his studio, and he had the master tapes for Smoke on the Water, like the actual analog master tapes, and it was doing a remix. So I'm listening to, we all feel this way. I'm listening to historical gold. I'm listening to something that moved so many molecules and so many people, was the soundtrack to people's lives. And we all have that in common. I mean, my father sold 500 million records with a B. He's 40 top 10 records, number one records, reinvented himself after it being like the first teen idol with Elvis into a country rock pioneer. Like all that stuff that became like Randy Meisner from the Eagles, the founding member, the bass player that sang, the high stuff on Take It to the Limit. Randy was in my dad's band before, so our dad was before that. I grew up with all of that stuff. So as the oldest son, I could walk away from it, but I can't, because if I want to get real, really real with you, I can't, because then he's going to die for real. For me, every time I hear his song, or every time I restore something, we just restored the entire Ozzy and Harriet show, 435 episodes.
Who are
in
your
4K high def.
grandparents? Just in case people weren't aware, because you referenced
right.
them earlier. And your son being named Ozzy is not Osborne. It's after your grandfather.
No, I'm just a really big Osborne fan. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, well, there's that. And you were talking about celebrities on the other side of the family. Our mom is Kristen Harmon, as in Tom Harmon of Michigan won the Heisman Trophy, my grandfather, in football. And our uncle is Mark Harmon from, Gibbs on NCIS. That's our uncle. So we have a pretty impressive lineage. All I could say is, even you, celebrate. We're all the fastest swimmer. We're all the champions. We got there first.
Well, I was gonna say, one of the other things I talked to Wolfgang about is processing the grief of losing a parent, because I just lost my mom literally a year ago. Thank you. And it doesn't matter if your dad was Ricky Nelson or Eddie Van Halen.
No,
my mom was a nurse who was not famous, but the idea of nature taking its course, meaning we're supposed to lose our parents, they're not supposed to lose us.
Right.
It's something we all are going to have in common, that we're going to lose our parents at some point. And the idea of that shared grief, I don't care how old you are. I know you and your brother were 18, right, when your dad passed?
We're 18. Yeah.
I was in my 50s when I lost my mom. It still feels, tell me if you feel this way, I feel like an anchor on my boat got cut.
Oh, sure. My wife just lost her father a few years ago, and he went slowly, and I have always asked myself, well,
my mom
what is
did
better?
Too.
Yeah. And I saw what she went through, and look, I don't care who you are. You're different, because you also realize that anchor that you were talking about, that kind of tether, even if you don't see them or anything, they're there. And, I have faith, so I know that there's more to that. I've seen too much in my life to not believe that there's more than this, because there is. But I also say that I'd give 5 minutes, for 5 minutes with my dad. I would give everything I have for 5 minutes with my father, that tangible, here you are, give me a hug. I love you, Pop. I'm so proud of you. And, what I do have, though, and probably what is wonderful, and it doesn't matter who you are, when somebody comes up to you and says, that you haven't met before, and says, I knew your mom, or I knew your dad. And they were so sweet to me when they didn't need to be, it's like when that stuff happens, and everybody feels that, hopefully.
Yeah. Patients that my mother took care of as a nurse say that to us all the time, which is amazing.
Isn't it the best feeling?
Yes.
Because you feel like, I get so proud. I drove my 11-year-old to school today. I always do. If I'm in town, I'm super dad. And drove him to school today, and we had a really nice talk. And he's funny. He's really a funny kid. And the last thing I said to him before he got out of the car was, I said, okay, son, I'll be here when you get out of school. Remember, be a giver, not a taker. He looked at me and said, I will, Pop. He got out of the car, and I was like, and I'm not that, everybody's worried about their kids, but I remember when I lost my dad, Gunnar and I were, our world was turned up. We had everything back together. Our parents had broken up, and now we're here with our dad. We just graduated. We're together. We're living together. Everything is great. He's going to come home from this gig, and then, as he said, I'm going to work with you guys and the whole thing. And then he died like that. And it was like, okay, guys, get out of the house. Oh, and by the way, your dad's $5 million in debt. So if you don't handle that debt somehow, all of his assets, including his songs and the movies and everything, that's going to go into a pile, and people are going to be trying to get that in like a fire sale.
They're going to be vultures. Yeah.
Right. So it'd be like, I mean, just imagine that, his life's work, and it happens to other people in different things too. They come in and they take the business and they strip it. We couldn't let that happen. I couldn't let that happen. It would have been a whole lot easier for us to just walk away from it. But for so many reasons, and none of them monetary. I mean, that's great. But
no, it's
for me, it was a matter of
legacy.
Yeah. And if anybody needed to or could have or should have declared bankruptcy, when my mom came at him with 3 lawyers and a Hollywood divorce, he had every right to say, screw this, I'm out, But he didn't, because he thought it was dishonorable. And we talked about it. Because I told him, I said, why not just Pop, in 7 years, you'll be fine again. He said, it's an honor thing, Matt. I know you don't understand this, but it's an honor thing. I can't do it. I just think I've never taken the chicken exit. I'm not going to do it now. There's something to that, because I've seen everything, including my ex-wife. They take the chicken exit every chance they get. Our dad wasn't that kind of a guy. Gunnar and I are not those kind of people. And I don't know Wolfie. I'd love to meet him. But I will tell you that from what I can see, he's not that kind of guy either. I know Dweezil's not, because family's tough, and he's had a real run-in with his, and all he's tried to do is honor his father. So I wish they could all get it together, but sometimes, the family doesn't survive. And right now, my family it's really my brother Gunnar. And the one thing I can say is that he knows everything I went through. He's been there through everything. We're very different. You'll see in the book, the way that we write, our styles, like your aunts, I'm sure they had their similarities.
Yeah.
But they definitely, they had their differences too.
Well, my sister and I are not twins, but losing my mom galvanized our relationship. And I'm so grateful to have had a sibling to go through all of that stuff, because somebody said it to me once, like, when both of your parents are gone, because both of ours are, that your sibling is the last witness to your life.
True.
And that hit me like a bullet. That from day one, that your sibling is the last witness of your life. And I was like, oh God, I burst into tears at the concept of it.
Well, when you're identical twins, it's kind of one of those really weird things to think about. I mean, look, I'm old enough now to where I was doing an interview, and I said, they asked how old I was. I said, I'm 57. And my wife said, you're 58. I said, I was like, when you get to that point where you forget and you realize, you might be on the other side of things. But I got to tell you, the one thing that I have really learned, and everything that we've kind of talked about, I think the nexus of the whole thing is feeling grateful for everything, especially the people that you have. There's one thing that you get when you lose somebody, and everybody, unfortunately, that's part of our journey here.
Yeah.
Is you lose somebody, you have an appreciation that you didn't have before about moments and words and time and things that are, I think it makes you appreciate things. Should you choose to look that way, it makes you really appreciate the time you have here. I mean, I can speak for myself. We write it in the book. Gunnar and I had a whole mess of close calls traveling to play music. A lot of things happen to me. I shouldn't be here right now. I'm on bonus lives, and including a very near fatal plane crash, something where the plane dropped for 10 minutes, that kind of stuff. Or I used to race cars, and I still do any chance I get, to be honest with you. I'm pretty good at it. But I was in a Formula Ford race once, and I got to tell you, I was heading for that wall. And if you knew the dynamics of it, there was no way I wasn't going to hit that concrete wall at 130 miles an hour. No way. And I felt my car move over. Like literally something grabbed my car and moved it over. And I could hear the sound of the rubber on the wall as I skimmed it. I can't explain that. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's my dad watching out for me. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. All I know is it's not a physical possibility what happened to me and things that I've seen and done. And I just feel very grateful that I'm here. And I feel totally grateful when I have somebody come up to me and say that I wrote a song or I did something that way artistically that got them out of a tough spot, which happens a lot, especially the song After the Rain. It's an autobiographical song. And there's a line in there that people have tattooed on their arms. Don't be afraid to lose what was never meant to be. So Gunnar and I just wrote it autobiographically, but it really resonated. And we always say that Nelson broke, and it was unlikely. We had MTV, which was a great asset, and we worked on MTV. We hosted on it, and that's what broke the record for us because our label never gave us tour support ever. We had to go into T-shirt money from T-shirt deals to pay to be on the road. We used our own publishing money because we were songwriters. So we did a publishing advance and paid to have our band out there. It worked for us, but it was really more like we wrote songs and played music kind of as, we joke and say on one, the funny part is it was Revenge of the Nerds. The whole thing was Revenge of the Nerds. We're going to be those guys. But we were kind of, for a second there, patron saints for the walking wounded, just like us. We knew how they felt. We were never the kids that were the cool kids. We were never the kids that, we were the dorks that brought guitars to school and said, hey, one day we're going to be stars. We're going to make this happen. Not because we wanted to be famous. Fame it was all around us. We'd seen that. It was that we wanted to be good. We wanted people to appreciate us for that. And it worked out. But feeling grateful for every experience I have. The cool thing about writing a book now, and some people have said, why are you guys writing a book now? And I love the haters. And I say, proof of life, But if you go deeper into that, yeah, it's proof of our lives not being what most people think they were, which was probably the way they felt about Wolfie and Dweezil or anybody.
It's all glamour and all, that there's no sadness, there's no grief, there's no loss. Everything's perfect because your family members were famous and had money. I think a lot of people now, because of the internet, while they see people going viral and fame, I think a lot more people are aware of the downside of fame now because of that kind of instant Instagram fame that then goes away.
Well, it's kind of like we all grew up. I'm a little older than a lot of your listeners probably, but I grew up when cell phones weren't around and it was a completely different life. Frankly, I miss a lot of it.
I grew up that way too. That's why Gen X is so dangerous. We straddle that line between knowing technology and remembering what it was like not to have it.
Don't F with us. Seriously, we're survivors.
We'll show up at your house and punch you and your mom.
That's what's missing now is people don't have any consequences because when I used to talk crap about somebody would inevitably go boom and give you a pop in the nose. Yes. Now it's like all about hurt feelings and what is this crap?
Somebody's older brother was going to come and defend them like I used to do with my sister when somebody picked on her.
Oh, yeah. Same thing with me and Gunner. I got into a fight over some guy was picking on him and I went right in there over the top and that's what we did. Or if you went to school, if you talked crap about somebody else's girl or something or their mom, you would wind up in the parking lot after the school with a circle around you.
Yep.
You would fight. Somebody would lose. Inevitably, the other guy would get picked up off the ground. You'd shake hands and it was over.
Yeah.
It was done.
Well, except if you're Sicilian like me and then you hate to the death.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I spent a lot of time in Tom's River with some serious Italians. I mean, 4 generations of Italians in the same family for 2 years. Jack Ponte, he was a record producer. And I've never heard, unfortunately, the language, and I'm not talking Italian, rubbed off on me. South Jersey Italians. The F word was a noun, an adjective,
Boston
an
Italians
adverb.
are the same way, man.
Damn. So we can, yeah. I remember, basically a healthy diet of Fra Diablo and ziti, and cigarettes constantly and trucker swearing. And, but if any, oh, yes. So
sounds like Christmas.
That's what it was. Here, you got some camels for Christmas. But it was, what the thing was, and I always say this, I never saw love like that ever again in my life. But, a family that really loved each other. And in that way, and it rubbed off on me that way too. I think that it's not about money. It's not about where you live because it wasn't a great place. It was a very, very Toms River, New Jersey, in the not nice place. And I loved it. When Nelson blew up, and I frankly couldn't go around with my brother without causing a riot. We write about that in the book. I know what it was like being Taylor Swift for 2 years. And honestly, even growing up and all that fame and, the homeless guy in the living room turned out to be Bob Dylan, and our next door neighbor was George Harrison, and Linda Ronstadt was at the front door. It was a surreal thing. When you're a kid, you don't know what fame is. It doesn't matter.
It's just dad.
It's just whatever. It doesn't matter. I always say that I didn't know that pop was a big deal until parent-teacher night at our school, and all the teachers heard that Ricky Nelson was coming and started frantically putting their makeup on. I was like, oh, I guess he's a big deal. I didn't know. And that's the beauty about being a child is you're not aware of that stuff, and frankly, with my family going multiple generations, the blessing with that was I had perfect social proof. I never saw my grandparents, except for Lucy and Ricky. I guess Ozzy and Harriet are pretty much the most famous couple ever. George and Gracie, maybe, I don't know. But they never had a celebrity moment. They talked to everybody just normal because they were real. My dad, he was arguably one of the most famous people in the entire world, like right up there with Elvis. I will challenge you to find anybody that said that he was a real a-hole to them or had a celebrity moment or was demanding or what. He just wasn't that way. And, Gunnar and I aren't that way either. He's been on the edge of that sometimes, but a lot of that had to do with people not listening to him. He doesn't like that, 'cause it's like when he has an opinion about something and he's really serious about it and somebody dismisses him or just doesn't listen, that pisses him off. I'm a little more diplomatic.
Piss anybody off.
Yeah, but he does something about it, But I don't call that having a celebrity moment. I think we've kept it together. Being twins, we always try to say is probably not the cool thing to do, but trying to be a decent person in a horrible freaking business is a challenge.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say it would have been so much easier for us to go that other way. It really would have been, We've gotten a lot of crap for not, winding up statistics.
I got to ask you this
odd.
question because I asked Wolfgang the same thing, and you guys are a perfect resource for this. Do you think musical ability is genetic or environmental?
Genetic.
Really?
I think it's both, but I'm saying that realistically speaking, how can you say that my son, who never met my father, can go and sit down at the piano and start playing by ear anything he hears? I don't know. Much in the same way, on the other side of my family, my grandfather, Tom, won the Heisman Trophy, and my uncle Mark wound up first-string quarterback at UCLA for 2 years. There are genetic things that happen. It's just as I said, my grandparents, their parents were entertainers. Their parents were entertainers. I mean, it goes way back to the circus in Europe and stuff. I mean, it's like, it goes way back. So is there a genetic component? Sure. Do Italians hate people to the death? Sure. There's something to it, man. But I will say this, in our case, everybody says, well, were you pushed into music by your family or whatever? I'm telling you the God's truth. Our mother wanted us to do anything. And she said that. I want you to do anything except play music. Anything. Be a lawyer, be a doctor. And I'm sitting there right now after what we went through with COVID going, yeah, the two most repugnant things you could possibly be. But, I don't want you to be that. And she was a painter. She was an artist too. She did not want us to do music. And she made it really difficult on us, which made us work harder. So when I look back on my life, I think, and we write about this too, I think that if we didn't have the challenges we had, Gunnar even wrote a chapter called, What If Pop Didn't Die? What if he hadn't died on that plane crash? What would we have been? Would we have had the drive? Yes, we would have had the drive because we had it before. But will we had the same mission, which is life is short. You're never guaranteed anything. And we've got something to say. So let's make it happen. No matter what it takes, we're going to keep overcoming. There's one of those quotes on the back of our album. Jack Ponti, same Italian guy, said one day in the studio, he said, you boys, you guys can make more out of nothing more than anybody I have ever met. And Gunnar and I both said the same thing. Thank you. He said, I didn't mean that as a compliment, but that's what we did. I'm like, I always make a joke. I'll find myself can I swear on this?
Yeah,
or is this
fuck
kind of
absolutely.
Well, thank you. Fucking good. Okay. I'll walk into a room full of horse shit and I'll be the guy digging around going, there's a pony in here somewhere. That's who I am. Gunnar even laughs about it. It's like, yeah, put Matt on it. He'll find something in there. But we had to, that was our survival technique, man, because, our dad, he was absent, not because he wanted to be, but because he had kids in private school. He had a wife that was coming after him for alimony and all kinds of shit, spending his money faster than he could make it. So he was gone. We were forced to live with our mom, who really liked Smirnoff and was not a very nice. She wasn't nice when she had too much, which was a lot. So we had each other and we had our music. And for whatever reason, God chose to put identical twins in that environment together with our dad in the environment in the zone too. And a combination of, I think, Harmon family competitiveness, because there are still athletic records in Indiana where our grandfather went to high school, track and field and basketball records. Oh, and he happened to win the Heisman Trophy, you know. There's that genetic competition thing. You know, I saw the Harmons they all succeeded. Uncle Mark, he's done so well. He's amazing. I still talk to Mark once in a while. He's a very busy guy, still produces NCIS, but he's an achiever. You know, he will go until he achieves. So we got that on one side of the family. And then you had, I think, the sensitivity, sweetness, and, our dad could have done anything. He was on Rio Bravo. He could have been a great actor. He won a Golden Globe for that, by the way, and, spent his life growing up on television and stuff. And he used to joke that he was really happy when the show was canceled because he was not a morning person. He hated getting up early in the morning and getting the makeup chair.
I think that's a genetic thing too, because I definitely am not, and neither was my mother.
Well, also, yes, really, that's interesting because I heard that my grandfather Ozzy, not Osborne, he couldn't sleep. He just had this thing where he could live on 2 to 3 hours a night of sleep.
Thomas Edison was like that.
Yeah, well, I'm the same way. So last night I got 4 hours. And that was a big thing for me. I always feel like I'm missing something and my brain is working. But our grandpa, he was a great example because he wrote, produced, edited, directed, and starred in all 435 episodes of the show. There were 480 episodes of the show on radio with a completely different script that he wrote. And it kind of I don't even know how he did it, but he was one of those guys with the world's youngest Eagle Scout, still holds a record doing that. He had a law degree from Rutgers, which was Ivy League at the time. So he shucks his way into Hollywood. We still own the show. If a guy can do that, and he raised his kid brother because his dad died young. He made everything happen and he smiled through it. He made America laugh. I have no excuses. I've got no excuses. I had really great examples that way. And by the way, our grandpa was the kind of guy that everybody loved him, man. He was a whole lot less, he was straightforward, but he wasn't all milk toasty and, he wasn't soft. Ozzy wasn't soft. And he was an older guy and he was playing volleyball down in Laguna Beach with all the 20 somethings, up until the day he died. He was fit and he'd swim the ocean every day. He was a cool dude. I miss him a lot. And I was only 10 when he passed away, but he left behind an amazing legacy. Another reason why I couldn't give up on my dad's legacy when we're handed this huge wall of debt when he died. It wasn't even in our transom. I can't do it. It's just not who we are. I'm not going to do it. Whatever it takes, I'll die trying. And it came close, but we got it back. And, we're still to this day doing the best we can to kind of navigate through our own lives and our own experiences. And the book is fun because we took the gloves off and really told real stories from what it was like growing up in that chaos and the good and the bad, the plane crash thing, what it was like being literally the most famous twins on the planet, even more so than Mary-Kate and Ashley, yes. And the fact that all these years later, through the highs and the lows and marriages and kids and all that, we still actually get along, which is the biggest miracle because the Everly brothers hated each other at the end of that, man. They, I know personally, I dated an Everly for a while. So they didn't get along. Not an Everly brother.
Paved with brothers in rock and roll that hated each other. There's so many examples of brothers that started bands that ended up fighting and hating. Eventually, they always kind of kiss and make up and get back together. But those tumultuous years are always there.
Well, I'm really glad that Oasis went out and stuff. But if it wasn't for Noel's ex-wife, I don't know if that would ever happen because they really, for a while, and I hope that's an enduring thing because, for what they do, man, they're fantastic. Love it. The world needs a rock and roll band right now,
Well,
needs something real.
There's 2 questions I got to ask you before I let you go that I ask every musician that comes on the show. And this feels obviously a little poignant because of the recent loss of Rob Reiner. But I always reference Spinal Tap because it's not a mockumentary. It is a documentary of rock and roll. It proves itself to be true every day. Greatest
I know every line.
Spinal Tap moment for you as a touring musician?
Every one of them. I have experienced everyone, including Duke Fame, selling out the Enormo Dome in 5 minutes and then having to go sit down in the lobby and wait for the limo. I know every line in that movie. The funniest bit with that whole thing was when I saw it was in a movie theater and there was a very heavy metal band. It was in LA and it was a late showing. It was a heavy metal band. You got these guys, they all look like blue, black hair, the Hollywood vampire thing. They're all sitting there. They didn't even chuckle, these guys, like the whole movie. Gunnar and I are just rolling at everything. These guys just stood very still. They really thought it was serious. And then, you go out on the road and you live that lifestyle for a while. But, everything from, people trying to take over the band management. And, we didn't have anybody try to dress us as animals. But, we had all those moments.
Did you ever open for a puppet show?
No, but we played that exact venue that they filmed that in. That was at Six Flags Magic Mountain in the outdoor theater there. Our dad played there, and we opened for him. So I guess we were the puppet show. But remember, I told him 1,000 times, Spinal Tap first, puppet show last.
Oh my God.
Well, the whole thing for me, you know what it was? The contrast between our first album and our second album. This is what I did live. And we've gotten lost backstage a lot, okay, because we're blonde. But the concept was very simple. The first, and I write about this in the book, our first record store in-store where you sign autographs and stuff, we didn't know. We did our MTV bit at the Sherman Oaks Galleria. The week before I left, I got some underwear and socks or whatever. Nobody would even talk to me, and did the MTV thing. And then our first thing was pre-scheduled at the Sherman Oaks Galleria at Licorice Pizza, which is still there, the record store. And we went up the freight elevator, and my record guy, the associate from Geffen, was acting a little weird, and the owner of the record store was literally sweating. And I said, "What's going on, guys?" And they said, just wait. We're not going to tell you anything. The door opened, and it was like a freaking 737 jet engine. It was like Beatlemania. It was unbelievably crazy. And Gunnar and I looked at each other and went, "Holy shit, what is this?" We thought it was going to take a couple of albums. We didn't know it was going to be like that, and we went out. The long and the short of it was we tried to calm everybody down by, talking to them on the shitty mic in the studio, in the store. And we had 3 levels of teenage girls there. And the cops shut it down after 20 minutes because people were starting to realize there's no way they were going to meet us. And so we left and went back to our house, and nobody said anything for about 10 minutes. And I just wish I could have had the thought bubbles, popping them in here, just basically, all right, we're going to order pizza. I mean, what do you say to that? I mean, and that was our norm after that, was cops coming and shutting down in-stores. Now, grunge happens on our label, DGC. We go from being zeros to heroes to zeros, less than zero, actually, because we symbolized, I guess, that whole era.
I talked to Dee Snider about it. He said we woke up and what we did wasn't wanted anymore. That's that's how he described it.
Yeah, we got the same thing. We've done a show or two with D and stuff, and he's D, man. He's D.
Yep.
He is a quintessential rock star, and he's very smart. He's a very smart guy, but he's a great performer. But anyways, the contrast was 5 years later, Geffen kept us on ice. We write about this all in the book. Tortured us basically because we sold too many records to let go. It would have been embarrassing if we had hit at another label. So they let us sit there. They put us in the studio like they did Aerosmith twice to keep recording, just to keep us out of the way. When our album finally came out, the head of the record company says, Colodner's gone with Aerosmith to a different label, our guy. And the new guy says, "I'm going to kill your record," after 5 years of letting us sit. And we did an in-store, record store signing thing. And it was exactly like the Artie Fufkin scene in Spinal Tap, where nobody's there. Oh. I think 2 people showed up. And, the equivalent of Artie Fufkin was saying, "Kick my ass, kick this ass for a man. It's my fault." But it was brutal, the contrast. And it just is what it was. It was kind of like
the world changed.
Even more violent than the death of disco. I remember Bon Jovi. John just basically lived in England. He didn't even bother with the United States for years. Wound up cultivating something nice. But he was John Bon Jovi. He's got $1 billion. For everybody that wasn't him, it was life-altering. And so Gunnar and I started our own label and continued to release records to our own fans in other places of the world. And we weren't all over TV anymore. So we still have people going, are you guys still making music? Like, yeah, we're actually netting more money than we ever did when we were the biggest band in the world.
Yeah, because nobody was taking most of it from you, like the managers and the booking agents. When you start
all of it.
doing it all on your own, you realize how much you were bleeding.
Oh, and the double sets of books that we found out about, all the stuff that we thought it's never going to happen to us. It did. We write about it in the book too. It's a really, and we also, Nelson, the guys in our band, we had the best rock and roll band in the world at a certain point. I'm talking musically speaking. Paul Merkovich, keyboard player. He's Janet Jackson's music director. He does the voice and stuff. He's doing all that stuff. Brett Garsed, the lead guitar player from Australia, guitar players say he's the best I've ever. George Lynch was out on the road with us, like mind blown about how good he was. Bobby Rock, our drummer, he's still playing with Lita Ford. We got him that gig, put them together. Virtuoso drummer. We had a band that was so overqualified for the pop music that we played that we knew that when we went anywhere, if people showed up to our gigs, they would have a great show and we'd have a great time. And then we realized, what people are really coming to see is me and Gunnar. And the band's great. We love the guys. They're our brothers. They always will be forever. But when I'm in a room or in an arena with my twin brother and 2 acoustic guitars, which we became kind of famous for, it's real, it's unique, and it's special. And that's what we do, honestly. And the person that gave us the advice to do it that way, honestly, was probably the most unlikely person you could ever imagine when he was alive, was Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager. And we told him we were putting a band together before Nelson broke. He said, you don't need it, boys. Just you 2 guitars. That's all you need. And we're like, what the hell does this old man know? I mean, come on.
Everything.
He's so out of it. Everything. Sometimes you got to listen, get out of your own way. But here we are all these years later. We got our first record deal that way. We wrote all of our songs that way. The most people that ever came to see us play was 2 brothers, 2 guitars. And we just got back we could play with anybody that way. Like we went out with Six and Frampton that way. We just played with our buddies in Night Ranger that way. We went out on tour with America and members of the Eagles. We can do all of that stuff just doing that. And I think we're going to Gunnar wants to focus on that a little more this year, because in a world of fake AI music, fake everything, you can't hide behind that. 2 guitars, 2 voices. The world needs real. And that's why I figured it out with our dad. He was the real deal. Grandparents, real deal. If you're a class act and you're the real deal, you're going to do okay, because at least you can look yourself in the mirror. And maybe one day I'll get a chance to meet Wolfie. Maybe he can tighten us up and I could shake his hand, and my buddy Dweezil, who's doing it. I think for all those people, and there are an awful lot of sons and daughters of that didn't do well. I will say just a little tip, because nobody knows this, but we did have a hit with Carney and Wendy Wilson, Brian Wilson's daughters. We wrote an original Christmas hit called This Christmas. It went top 5 2 years in a row, kind of like a new Mamas and the Papas thing. And if we can get them out, we're going to probably do some more shows and put something together with them, kind of class it up a little bit, dress up a little bit and go hit some velvet rooms somewhere, big places. And I can't wait to play some Beach Boys songs. I can't. It'd be really fun because I love the Beach Boys. I think that's what you're getting now. And as we get older, we start having appreciation for not only what's come behind, but where we are in music now. When somebody calls himself a producer because they hit a button on Suno, look, it's a tool, but it's not supposed to replace your own voice and what you have to say. I'm really glad that we grew up in an era without cell phones, without Suno. Look, we learned how to cut tape with a razor blade.
That's how I went to school for radio. That's how I came up, cutting reel-to-reel tape with a razor and a grease pencil. Yeah.
Look, you have the most unbelievable radio voice. So I know that you've been doing this a long time.
I have.
Oh, no, it's killer. I wish I had a voice like that, but I don't. So I'm going to sing behind a guitar.
It only does one thing, and trust me, it does not sing.
All you have to do is one thing. Do one thing really well. Do you well. And that's, I guess, what it is. I can't even do Gunnar well. So be yourself.
Well, that brings me to my last question, because I'm famous on the show for being so envious of people's musical ability and songwriting ability, because I don't have any of that. I'm just lucky enough to be surrounded by people that can all the time. So this is a songwriting craft question.
Okay.
A song that is crafted so perfectly, you covet it and wish you wrote it yourself. And then tell me why.
Wow. What went through my head was a million things at one time. I mean, there were so many things to admire about so many songs and so many people. The first thing that comes to my head is I was just talking about this yesterday. I'll just bring this up because just my brain works this way. It's random access. Okay, let's talk about Here Comes the Sun, George Harrison. The reason why? Because George was the Beatle, and yes, he was our next door neighbor and used to have breakfast with us when we were kids.
Oh, it's my bucket list, dream, Everest. To even the closest I got to a Beatle was at the Super Bowl when Paul McCartney played the halftime show. The Beatles were my mom's favorite band. They are the soundtrack to my childhood. And to this day, they are still my favorite band. So
me too.
You are preaching right now.
Me too. And the thing why I said that particular song, I do cameos, these things where people want me to. Yeah. And sometimes, well, Gunnar doesn't, but I have a lot of people asking me to sing and play for him. And he's like, don't do that for free. I'm like, yeah, that's why they like us. I'm playing something. I get a lot of people, sometimes they're really happy or they're celebrating something, but I get sometimes people that are kind of feeling blue and they're like, hey, can you cheer me up? And I'll either play one of ours or him one of these or whatever. But Here Comes the Sun is instant feel good every time.
Every time.
Because it's so simple. And it's just about, there's not even a mention of anything outside of, hey, it's going to be better. Here it is. Because people need hope, man. That's what this is all about, in my opinion. And George was look, I love all the Beatles. I love all of them. Gunnar and I right now are trying to get in the All-Star band. I'd love to go out and play with Ringo, and it'd just be amazing. I met Paul McCartney, that's another story, which is amazing.
Another guy that just sees the world different.
We're going to need a half an hour about the time when we met Paul. But George, when that song happened, I saw the Peter Jackson thing where all the Beatles were in there and doing their thing. Great, but you could kind of see that the genius that was happening there, and it was basically loosely organized chaos, with Yoko in there, which is weird, and all the stuff that was happening, and John was playing 6-string bass because Paul was on the piano doing a lot of stuff, and they just filled in the gaps and did their thing and created as it went. But when you listen from my favorite record, and I love all of them, but for some reason I always listen to Abbey Road from start to finish. I just love it. And if I'm in the car, Abbey Road goes on, and I listen to the whole thing. When Here Comes the Sun comes in, and it's just a solo acoustic with him starting with it, and then it just gets bigger, and then it ends with that same solo guitar. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. Yeah. I just love it. And this is so much bigger than we all are. That's the thing about music. That's why, I do it. That's why I love it, is because this stuff really is the soundtrack of our lives. Yeah. It's stuff where we were talking about this in the first part of your show. We lose people, but we remember them sometimes with a song that we were listening to together, or a place we were at that time, or whatever. There's so many of those instances. So I'm old enough now when I play a show and people grew up with my music, let alone my dad's, you can see them viscerally change. Yes. It's like all that stuff goes away. It's as close to magic as we have. It's God-given. It's huge. It's way bigger than us. And I talked to Jeff Baxter from the Doobie Brothers about it. And he said, brother, the universe is all frequency. It's all about this magic thing. And music is as close as we get to creation that way, with frequency. He's smarter than I am. He's a rocket scientist, literally. But he's on to something, because, when that song, Here Comes the Sun, or so many of those other ones.
It hits your DNA. It's weird, the power that it has. We put a Beatles quote on my mom's headstone. That's how much that music meant to her.
Well, there you go. I wish I could hang with your mom.
My mom was a badass. She was one of those people that had no musical ability, but could tell you where she was when she heard a song for the first time, what she was wearing, the car she was in, who she was there with, the name of the album. Music was like frets on her guitar for her, those markers of her life that she died of Alzheimer's and dementia, and the thing that left her last was the music and the nursing. Those two things.
The music and the nursing, yeah. There's stuff that I know what you're talking about. There's something on YouTube where this old man, he's got dementia badly, and he's basically catatonic, and somebody went and found music from his youth that he liked and put it on his head, and he transforms. And
that's what we did with my mom all the time. We would just play her Beatles music, and she would come right back. And
you
it
know
was
what?
so weird.
Somebody asked me with the book, do you guys have a charitable thing that you do? And, a little bit here, a little bit there, but I don't really have a cause yet. But when I saw that, and I know what music does to people, I wish that there was a foundation where people did that, where they just got people that were kind of sunsetting back into themselves through music, because it works. I've seen it. It's so powerful.
We did it with my mom, that we would just walk her around. She didn't remember us. She didn't remember she had kids. She didn't remember anything, but we could put Beatles music on, and she knew every word. I'm
going to get something started. I'm going to call you.
Yes.
I'm going to call you because maybe we could do something together on this, because I think there's something here, because you see this happening now. Just it's a scary world. It's a little bit messed up.
And Alzheimer's, if you look at the trending of it, they say that by 2050, it's going to kill more people than heart disease. It's
crazy.
Something we're not ready for.
No.
And until you're impacted by it, it's something that a lot of people don't understand. But that power of music, more so than anything else, they will forget everything else, including their own children, but they will not forget the music. It's so crazy.
There's something there.
Yeah.
There's something there. Okay.
Well, you call me. I'm in.
Okay. I love this. I think this has been really fun.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so envious of the idea that you guys were able to sit down and put your story down in a book, which seems to me like such a daunting task. And now it's out there for everybody to kind of be able to live through you guys. But the fact that it came through your own pen, that it's your story done by you.
Well, thank you for saying that. And we tried to do that. As I said, that whole ghostwriter thing, it just was shit. And we knew it. And we were running on a deadline, which was actually worked for us. We had 3.5 weeks. We wrote over 500 pages. Wow. And we were so tired because, again, my insomnia. But I saw a lot of sunrises and sunsets on this thing just to get the manuscript in the publisher's hand. It's hard to actually publish a book nowadays because everybody's going digital.
Yeah.
But this is an actual book, which I really want as like a life's goal. It's nice being called an author now. It's even nicer that people like the book. They say the book is it's a really good read, because it is. And I'm proud of my brother for he wrote a little bit more than I did. He got a head start on it. I was busy raising an 11-year-old, but I did my part, and it'll make you feel. It'll really make you laugh, and it'll make people know who we are, because we've never gotten a chance for people, unless you're really a hardcore fan of ours and really mines through interviews, you don't know what makes us tick.
Well, that's what we were talking about, that your name makes the impression for you. And so because of that, everybody thinks they know you. So the book gives them a chance to know you.
It's true, and there's always this preconceived, we always felt like we were guilty until proven innocent. I think, we could say about it, all the sons and daughters of, there really is a little bit of that. I'm going to be the first person to teach you about the real world, kid. We got that more than we got a hand up. That's just how it was. And we always looked at it like it made us work harder, which it did, and so I'm lucky to be here, still actually loving music enough to endure the bullshit and push through it. And I've got stories, man. And
yeah, you do.
I got stories, and it's kind of nice to be able to have an outlet for it. I admire you for having your podcast. Gunnar and I actually just inked the deal for a podcast. And I think we're going to be, get picked up by Sirius XM if we do our job right. So we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, it's like I have a foot in two worlds, the radio shows and the podcast, and kind of doing it all at the same time. That's why I have to remember, podcast, yes, you can say fuck. Radio shows, not so much.
I gotcha. Well, as I said, I have a lot of South Jersey in me, so fucking call me again.
Yes,
okay?
I would love to. And definitely in the new year, if you guys start working on this music project, please call me, because I would love to be part of that.
I will. And I think a lot of people that are listening would probably get behind that too, because they too clearly experience the power of music.
Yeah.
We got to spread it around.
Thank you so much. It was so great to meet you.
You too. You too. I love your style and I love your voice. Let's do this again.
There he is, Matthew Nelson. The new book, What Happened to Your Hair, with his twin brother Gunnar, is available everywhere. You'll find the link in the show notes of this episode. You'll also find the link to get tickets to see the Nelson Brothers Unplugged at City Winery Boston on April 26th. You'll find the link to this episode's corresponding playlist. I make a playlist for every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that features all of my guest music and all the artists and songs that we referenced in the interview. You'll also find all of the Nelson links and all the Mistress Carrie links. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, comment, share, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday, plus every weekday you get the sit rep. The Situation Report gives you all your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates in about 5 minutes. And you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. Join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern for my weekly streaming video show, Cocktails in the War Room, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. And of course, you can always find me on the radio. Get the details on all of that and more at MistressCarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie Podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.